My blood boiled, as I reached a point of no return. You found the best place for your vengeful needs. We start off with a black sheep of a family who gets used as a punching bag. But this punching bag hits back, destroying a marriage and family. Followed by a lazy coworker who uses his colleague to do his dirty work, while he cheats on his fiancé. An insulting scoff becomes the catalyst that spirals his life into deportation. The last story goes next level nuclear, so don't do this at home. When a boyfriend cheats on his partner, their relationship is broken. And whenever something's broken, his partner grabs glue to fix it. Before we start, make sure to send Farmville requests to the like button every single day. Naturally, viewer discretion is advised. These nuclear revenge stories might be disturbing to cheaters. So I have a personal story to share, which is several years old. I'll keep it short, but worth it. I've always been the black sheep of the family. Cousins grew up to be doctors, professors, creatives and such. Meanwhile, I've managed to make a humble stable passive income through some business decisions. Nothing fancy, but I can afford a one-bedroom apartment in New York City and live comfortably with that, while working a part-time job in a cafe. Everyone in the family, including my own parents, judge me harshly for not pushing myself to do what my cousins do, especially my one cousin, who we will call Randy. I won't go into all the gritty details, but I'll go into some examples. The comments about my wasted potential weren't just, "Oh, your cousin's a doctor, what about you?" They were more like,
"I can't believe Randy just sealed a deal for X amount of dollars, and you still working at that shitty cafe.
Are you still together with, what's her name? The girl with the pudgy stomach. Aren't you ever gonna do anything with your life? I'd feel so worthless living like that."
Those are the nicer ones. I'm not kidding, welcome to my family. The worst ones include being told that it's better I didn't try, as I wouldn't amount to anything and other such things along those lines. I really don't care to remember the more toxic lines. So back to the golden boy, Randy. Think about the stereotypical dude bro, who got rich thanks to working for his dad, multiply that by 10, and you got Randy. Anyway, he always gave me the most shit, and eventually I just tuned them out. Mostly because I just wanted to enjoy my life with my significant other, work part-time and still afford what I want. So, to cut the bullcrap short, Randy has a wife and 2 kids. And let me add, he also had a mistress. I found this out, cause one day when I was walking through the city, I saw him walking down the street with a woman who clearly wasn't his wife, arms around each other. I checked Facebook, and saw he had indeed posted about visiting a bagel shop in the city while on a business trip that morning. So, I decided fuck it, let me see how this plays out. I followed them for 5 hours, snapped several photos, one of them going into a hotel together. I held on to these and waited until Christmas that year, about 6 months later. Why, you ask? I've been humiliated by these people at family events constantly as a sport. So I'll get back at them, in the same fashion. I decided to unceremoniously drop printed photos in front of everyone at the table before dinner, and made sure to get his wife to see them. Cue screaming, which was also pointed towards me, how I dared to tear this family apart. Followed by fighting and a solid punch to my face, that actually resulted in a black eye. It was Randy's dad who did it though, not him. Enter the police, a lot of questioning, my significant other and I get kicked out. We head back home after talking to the cops one last time. What's the aftermath? Besides Randy's wife and another cousin who hates Randy, my family cut me off entirely for several years. Whatever, even my parents had always expressed disappointment in me for not applying myself fully, so no real loss there. Bit strange, but that's how they are. Randy has been the golden boy, so they're willing to forgive his cheating, while hypocritically judging the neighbor as pure scum if they did the same. Randy got divorced and lost full custody of the kids after threatening his ex. Of course he did. Family occasionally tries to guilt me into apologizing, but my response is some variation of, not gonna apologize for outing a cheating snickerdoodle, and I'm promptly blocked for another few months. If it were me or any other family member who did the same, then it'd be good riddance, but with Randy it's a fair mistake anyone can make. So glad to be out of that toxic swamp. My significant other and Randy's ex-wife are good friends and the kids call me uncle, nice having a family who actually loves me unconditionally for once. My significant other and I got married, And that's when my family last tried to get into contact with me and were actually nice for once. Seeing me moving on eats at them, I guess. I personally felt it was them not wanting to lose their control over me, instead of not wanting to miss out on future grandkids. The reason for this is because they would always claim she wouldn't work for me in the long run. Me getting married to her disproves that idea, and they're starting to not want to be left out of other ways to try and keep me under them. Maybe realizing their punching bag is gone for good. That's it really, living my best life now with a good family, as opposed to a shitty one. This happened over a span of 3 years. Let me preface this by saying, I do feel somewhat bad about the events that transpired, but it would be eating my conscience to say I didn't do it on purpose, because I did. I started my first full-time job when I was 20, fresh off college and ready to take on the world. I resided in a Middle Eastern country, where people got brought in frequently by employers, and one mistake could cost them everything. I was spared of this pressure, because I was a resident of the place despite not being from there. Anyways, when I first started, I got along well with my coworker, despite the fact that he came off as bad news. We tried hanging out, but the more I got to know him, the more disgusted I became. He was a misogynist, a purist of his religion where he believes execution of certain people should be allowed, and he was extremely homophobic. But nonetheless, I tried making friends with him, because I was open to anything. In our office, we have a portable Wi-Fi that he took with him every day, so he had free internet at home, and I never commented on this because I have my own. I'll add that we can afford it both, more on this later. The closer I got to him, the more he opened up, but in the worst ways. While we're in the office, I learned he had a girlfriend, but he would send me lewd images of women he's sexy timing. He also talks about drug use, and sometimes disappears from work for hours on end, while I man the office. I must admit I'm also in the wrong for sort of enabling this behavior. At that point, I would rather suffer in silence and didn't have the cojones to say anything. But I did give him changes to redeem himself, which he screwed up. Like I said, I was 20, I was still young and naive, and I tried my best to seem calm and friendly. I wanted to make a good impression. I'm normally the quiet type who keeps things to himself and tries not to bother people. I get to places through my merit and hard work. This man, however, was the opposite. He was several years older than me, and acted like he was above me through every step. But I ignored it, because I wanted to be civil. Sometimes I would help him with his work, until eventually, his work became mine. He would just expect me to do it, without even lending a hand. I didn't say anything nor protested, I just did it. His missing from the office became more frequent. Sometimes he would only be at work for a measly 2 hours out of 9, popping in and out, and the office manager is too chicken shit to say anything to the general manager. Then there's the lateness, where I would come in on time every day, and he'd come an hour late. Still, I kept my mouth shut. It escalated to him adjusting attendance records, so it seems like he's not absent, even though his absences were frequent. Unfortunately, he was put in charge of those records. I remained quiet throughout all of this, remained civil. Until I finally spoke to the general manager about pursuing a different line of work. I was always into graphic design, and they needed to get some work done, so I offered to do it. But during this time, I couldn't afford much things anymore, because I had to help pay for bills for my parents, so I usually just walked to work back and forth every day and limited my eating to once a day. I also canceled my Wi-Fi subscription with my internet provider to save money. So, as an agreement, I could take the office Wi-Fi with me and work on designs from home. However, my coworker didn't agree to this. He pretty much attacked me with a barrage of insults. He scoffed at the fact that I needed the Wi-Fi to do design work, and said I was a joke. I've suppressed majority of what the conversation held, but it went something like this. I just need it tonight, you can have the Wi-Fi tomorrow.
Why? It's not yours.
I need to do some design work.
Yeah, me too. I need to do that too. So leave it here.
I couldn't remember much of what else he said, but there was a scoff after he said that. He proceeded to make fun of my designs, saying they sucked and that I should just stop while I'm at it. My blood boiled and I reached a point of no return. I immediately phoned the office manager and talked about the situation and how if I don't get the Wi-Fi, I'll complain to the general manager, who did in fact give me his blessing unlike this turd. He immediately called my coworker and told him to give me the Wi-Fi, which he did, and that was that. Except, I'm a petty person, and I'm not about to let some asshole get off with a slap on the wrist. The next day, I went to the head office, and had a meeting with the general manager. I spoke to him about all the misconducts this guy had, how he's always late, never in the office, changes his absences, steals money sometimes, etc. I spilled my heart out on all his wrongdoings, showing the messages and photos I was sent during work that I never asked for, and how I'm doing all of his work. It escalated to a point where he got brought into the main office for a meeting, where I proceeded to berate him in front of the manager, and he could only try to defend himself, but I came prepared. It turns out the office manager never even spoke to the general manager about his misconduct. Afterwards, he was brought back to the office having been yelled at by both me and the general manager. And I could say that's where it ends, except it's not. After he left, the general manager realized if I had been doing all the work, then why didn't I say anything? I responded that I was simply there to work, and to help. However, with what just happened, and the fact that this guy was getting paid more than me, I've decided that as long as he's here, I won't be staying in the company. I gave him a choice, me, or this guy. The answer was obvious, because by the next day he was handed a termination letter, and another letter that states he's been booked a ticket and he has to head back to his home country within a month. He's also barred from entering the country for several years due to his public misconduct, that was reported by a certain someone, to the local authorities. I could say that's the end, but okay, this is the last one, I swear. Remember I told you he had a girlfriend back at home, a fiancé, whom he has been cheating on. Funny enough, he added me on Facebook when we first met, and she proceeded to add me too, because he talks about me to her. Well, our messages weren't just inappropriate, it showed details of him cheating on her, with me questioning him if that's a good idea. Every screenshot, sent. All the photos of the women he's been with, sent. She was livid, and I kept apologizing for keeping her in the dark, but that I thought she deserved to know at least. I haven't spoken to her since, but judging from the fact that her Facebook status no longer states she's engaged to him, is enough of a confirmation. I sent him one last thing before blocking him on every social media we've been connected in: you deserve this, shithead. It's been several months since then, and I'm thriving at work. I got a raise, have better coworkers, and I'm getting a promotion. As for him, well, he's out there somewhere in the world, who knows and who cares, right? We're no longer in the same country, so whatever else happens to him no longer phases me. During the times we were on good terms, he overshared and sent me a photo of his fake Italian ID, because he was planning on illegally migrating there next year. I'm on the fence if I should send it to the authorities in Italy or not, just as a precaution. I could escalate things further, but with everything I've been given since he left, I don't want to tempt fate any more than I have. Things are good now, and my new coworkers are great. This was the first time I actually set out to destroy someone, and I don't intend to do it again. When I was around 16, I was dating this really cool guy who I had met through a friend. At this time we were both in the closet, so nobody knew that we, in fact, began a relationship. Back then, I was very low in the self-esteem department and was pretty relaxed when it came to dating. Through our relationship, I was so emotionally insecure that I didn't really notice that he liked to keep me as a docile boyfriend. He would often treat me like garbage around friends, openly flirt and grope up on other people, and seemed to keep me at his side. Making me remember that he was the only one who found me attractive, and I would be all alone without him. I had heard about him cheating on me before, but I didn't want to believe it. One night I was laying in bed with him, since he decided to stay the night. I, unlike him, am a bit of a light sleeper and usually stay up pretty late. I was just about to nod off when my phone notified me of a text. I looked and saw it was a mutual friend, who, I have to admit, would be willing to sexy time any man with a pulse. She was the type who liked to tell her friends about her latest conquests. But she sent me this text, telling me she added my boyfriend to her list. She actually slept with him. It turned out that he took off of work early so he could visit her and they could have sexy time. What made it even worse was that he came to my house after and we also had sexy time. The thought of him sleeping with someone he knew I saw as a close friend, before coming home to me just to sleep with me as well, just made me snap in that moment. At first, I was prepared to slap him and kick him out of the house, but I had a better idea. Slipping out of bed, I searched around my dad's tools, finding a half-empty tube of super glue. I made my way back upstairs, making sure that I unplugged his phone before returning to his side. I continued to glue his Wiener Schnitzel to the side of his leg before moving to sleep on the couch the remaining night. I was upset, but knew that it would be worth it once he wakes up the next morning. I woke up that afternoon, and sat at the table to start breakfast with my unsuspecting parents, enjoying a piece of French toast when I heard a loud thud from upstairs. I couldn't help but grin, as my now ex limped down the stairs, most likely preparing to curse me out for what I had done. Of course, my parents were at the table and he did not want to out himself to anyone, nor would he want to face my father about both cheating and sleeping with his only son. He simply grabbed his phone and attempts to phone one of our friends for a ride, to find that the battery was dead before choosing to walk his way home. Long story short, I enjoyed my toast before inviting a couple of friends on what was supposed to be a date. We all had a lot of fun and I ended up coming out to a couple of friends and explained the situation. I later found out that he now has 3 kids from different women. Yes, I am in fact a male as well as my boyfriend who I had gotten revenge on. I know that my actions weren't the wisest or most sane, and while I was hurt, I knew it was not an excuse and honestly feel bad for doing it. What led me to do it was a bit more than just him cheating the one time. Later down the line, I realized that it was a toxic relationship. I should have just left, and now have built myself up to someone I could feel confident being, both emotionally and physically. Also, I didn't do something as bad as emptying the whole bottle onto his precious or anything like that. I did just enough for it to make it effective, but not enough for any real permanent damage. He, from what I have heard, still hasn't learned. I want to take this moment to thank you for your support. I really appreciate you. Remember that these stories are shared for your entertainment. Specifically concerning the last story, so don't do this yourself. Subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes and show your vengeful devotion by tickling the like button without mercy. Do you have any experiences surrounding the topic of this episode? Share yours below, I'll join the conversation. And I'll be seeing you in the next one.